So we're with Stephen Maguire, Head of Performance and Coaching with Scottish Athletics, chatting today about the Scots selected for Glasgow 2019, coming up in less than a couple of weeks now. Stephen, the previous record representation for Scots on a European indoors team was 6 athletes selected in 2015 and in 2017. How pleased are you that the Glasgow 2019 team has topped that figure?
I think first of all, congratulations to all those who were selected. It's a tremendous achievement. To actually be selected to compete for Great Britain in Glasgow, I think is even more special. So I'm delighted. The representation is superb. And yeah, you couldn't have hoped for much better. It's been really, really good.
Occasionally in the media, you see the phrase, or in the public perception, about overnight success, but really in athletics, that's not the case. Realistically, how long has it taken for some of these people to reach this level?
Yeah, it's a term bandied about a lot, isn't it? There's no such thing really. You know, you have to be very, very, very special to be an overnight, to have success just overnight. Most of these people have competed since they were 12, 13, 14, 15 years of age, and they have been building along with their clubs and their coaches. I think even looking back to my own days, I thought I was going to be an Olympian, and you dreamt of that. So these athletes would have dreamt of representing Scotland, representing Great Britain, and now going into the Emirates to compete. None of it's overnight success. It's lots of miles, lots of technical work, lots of training, lots of sacrifices. But you know what? A brilliant return at the end of the day.
If we can maybe just pick on a couple of individuals, for Neil Gourley, this is probably a nice moment after missing out on Berlin last summer. And then another one, Chris O'Hare, who I think probably harbours a little bit of a determination to make up for what I know Chris would regard as a disappointment at Glasgow 2014. I think he was 6th in the 1500 metre final. Just actually looking back at Chris's power of 10, I noticed he was 4th in the Scottish Junior 3000 metres back in 2006. So really is a bit of a journey for some of these athletes.
Yeah, if you just look at Chris and what Chris has done, Chris is one of my favourite athletes because he's one of the first people I met when I came into Scottish Athletics the first time, and chatting to him and his dad at the time. He was at Tulsa, and what he had to do, and what people forget is what he achieved in the American NCAA competition as well. The guy was tremendous. He's true world class. Chris will want to put a few things right from Glasgow 2014. He's coming in here, moved up to 3,000 metres. I know initially it wasn't, the biggest plan in the world was to do things, but I think as Glasgow got closer and Chris realised he was in really good shape, then it was a no-brainer, and that's what you've got to do. But Chris, in no matter what competition he enters, is never going to be far away. He's very, very, very good. Neil is younger on the scene and again has come from the club end again in Scotland. Has been around a wee while and competed underage, but really his career started to turn when he went to the States as well, into the NCAA circuit, and he knows how to compete. He's tremendous. Put him into a final again anywhere and he'll do some things. I think last year, he absolutely would have been pretty disappointed he didn't get picked for Berlin, but maybe a little bit early for him. The performance that he showed at the World Cup, I think last year, where he finished 3rd, showed that he's a tremendous athlete. He's come on. His career now is moving fast, and Mark Pollard, in particular from Scottish Athletics, would have a lot of time for where Neil can go and what his potential is at. So very, very positive.
Well, just sort of widening that out into endurance in general, because in that British Championships recently there were all 4 1500 male and female 1500 and 3000 metre championships were won by Scots. When you take that and then you look at some recent road performances like Steph Twell in Armagh, Adam Craig has been performing well. We do look to be in a good place there. Is that down to solid foundations, and how can Scots and Scottish athletics and Scottish athletes and coaches improve on that or build on that?
I think they need to keep doing what they're doing. I think from an endurance programme perspective, and the work that Mike Johnson did and Mark with the coaches and the buy-in from Scottish coaches and Scottish clubs, and even outside of that as well. You look at the likes of Jeff, who's now coaching Steph and things like that, and and they're buying into what's happening. And there's a momentum there, and there's been a momentum for a few years, but the endurance program is very, very strong. But as I said to people, you know, even in my time at British Athletics, it's not happening by accident. You know, there's been a program, there's been a process, there's been honest conversations, and you know, you needed like someone like Mike Johnson and Mark now to come behind him of actually pushing what good is, and that's what they've done. And you know, they've used the Edinburgh Cross Country, for example, in years past to do a bit of coach education on the evening of it or the evening before it, and getting some of the world-class coaches and athletes to partake in workshops and things like that. You know, those things can't be neglected. But massive respect to those guys, but also for the club coaches and the coaches of the athletes who are now appearing, because they've actually bought in and they've understood. But endurance in Scotland has always been strong, and I think now, you know, we have athletes, not necessarily you know, who will perform on the Scottish and British scenes, but true international world-class athletes are now appearing who and are getting recognised throughout the world as being very special.
It's inevitable in the final few days to Glasgow 2019 that the observers and the public will anticipate Scottish medals.
Yeah.
It just seems to happen. But I mean, looking back over the decades of Scottish representation at the European indoors, medals are very few and far between, maybe 2 at a maximum, 1 a more regular tally. How hard will they be to come by, do you think?
Yeah, very, very hard. Very hard. If you just look at what has happened in Europe already this season, you know, you can see that the talent is there. But we have to show that as well. You know, we shouldn't be afraid of what we've got. We shouldn't be afraid to have the chests out and to be very proud to represent Great Britain, but also as Scottish athletes competing in a Scottish arena at that. It's bound to give you a fillip, and it's bound to give you a boost. I do think the Scottish crowd will be massively supportive to every athlete that's there, but particularly supportive to the Scottish athletes, I would imagine, and not to imagine, I absolutely know they'll take the roof off, and you know, that's going to give them that extra percent. Yeah, 1s and 2s. What are my expectations? A wee bit more, but indoor athletics in particular it's a little bit more difficult to predict, you know, particularly with lane draws and things like that in a very tight arena. But I'd be very, very confident that the athletes that we have represent Great Britain will do very, very well.